Welcome back to Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small.
And I'm Paul Ogden.
And it is our honor today to be shooting from Libertarian Party headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana, 129 East Market Street. And our guest is Judge Jim Gray, candidate for Vice President of the United States, Libertarian Party. Meanwhile, about 45 miles west and north of here, DePauw University, 3 and 5 is playing its nemesis and arch rival.
Do you actually know that UCLA is playing Arizona today too? I thought that maybe they'd be interested in a real football game.
There you go.
Hey! Oh, that hurt! We've been talking about various matters on here related to the campaign.
And Mark, I should point out, I'm not used to sitting on the same level with a judge. Usually the judges are sitting much higher.
That's required by law, actually. We're required by law to wear a robe, and we're required by law to sit above. Just an artificial distinction. I think is a great idea, by the way.
It is.
Hear ye, just gives me chills.
When Samuel Chase was impeached, was justice on the Supreme Court and was impeached, he was tried in the U.S. Senate, and the presiding officer in the Senate was Aaron Burr. And the papers at the time, this was after Burr had shot Hamilton, and he was wanted on 2 warrants, and one in New Jersey and one in New York. And the papers said at the time, usually it's the murderer who's brought before the judge.
It was the other way around.
That was,
did anybody ask what happened to Aaron Burr? I wondered why we were into this.
He goes off on these tangents. It sometimes takes up the whole segment.
There might be some interest in there somewhere.
Well, yeah. What about Social Security?
You know, it's a huge issue for people. It's funny because you go to college campuses, it's never asked, but you go to other places, it is. Social Security is different than Medicare. Social Security, however, the government has been lying to us for decades, lying to us. You know, you remember this Al Gore with this lockbox and all the rest. There's no such thing, as we all know, of any lockbox. There's no fund. It's a pay-as-you-go system. When it was put in the 30s, we had hundreds of workers for every one person eligible. Now it's less than 3 to 1, and you give us another 5 or 6 years, I think it's going to be 2 to 1. So it's a Ponzi scheme. It's running out of money. However, we're libertarians. We believe in the sanctity of contract, and we're going to put in a system, if I have anything to say about it, that will take care of Social Security type things in perpetuity. How? I don't know what the age limits will be. I'll just give these as examples. First of all, though, the age limit now for eligibility is 67. I think in fairness it should be raised to 70 because the life expectancy now is so much longer than it was before. Are you getting close to 70? I'm just wondering.
Not close.
But, okay.
But
at any rate,
65,
you can. I'm 67. I'm proud of it. But nonetheless, in fact, I can take Obama one-on-one. I think that's what we should do in basketball to simply take care of this election.
Yeah, I'm 22. I just became legal for alcohol last year.
I understand. You've had a tough life. Let me try to bring some seriousness back to this and say that, maybe not, but, you know, we will put in a system in which you can have everybody that's 50 to 70 and above will get exactly what they've been promised. End of discussion. And their dependents. Then people, for example, from 40 to 50, if they want to, they can opt out of the system. The government will pay them a stipend of some form based on a formula for how much money they put into it, and then they can go to a private system. Everybody under 40 will go to a private system right away, which means that we will have some form of non-political, conservative financial experts that will find various funds that are very conservative, very low risk, will actually end up paying dividends, and you can choose, say there are 50 funds, you can choose to put your money into any one or all of those funds.
Oh yeah, but wait a second.
Let me keep going, and then we'll take your comments. Even with the last recession, if I had started putting money into a very conservative fund, I'd be so far ahead than what I'll ever get out of Social Security now, it would be my money. So that's the way it will go in perpetuity, but huge problem here because you're going to have fewer and fewer people paying into this system for those that remain in the system, and where's that money going to come from? I tell you, today, the Bureau of Land Management owns all kinds of, or administers all kinds of federal lands, hundreds of thousands of acres, millions of acres in the western 16 United States. We say there is no reason for the federal government to own this property. Who takes better care of a house, an owner or a renter?
Owner.
Hands down, yes, because if the property gets disheveled or whatever, it goes down in value. Who takes better care of grazing land, an owner or someone leasing the property?
It depends upon the
Yes,
person.
developers.
I mean, that's a general.
Maybe so, but that is a generalization. I assure you, though, that anybody leasing a property, particularly in your last year of your lease, will have a tendency to overgraze it. Why not? It isn't going to bother them any, and they can plunder the land. If you sell it to private individuals, we would take that Office of Bureau of Land Management property, take it, cut it into 10 amounts, and auction off to the highest bidder 1/10 of that land every year. Then the property is owned privately. There's no reason for the federal government to own it anyway. Maybe some of the states can participate in this as well. They'll get property taxes, etc. Take that money, put it into a fund, and pay off Social Security.
One real quick point, and then an
By the way,
audience question.
I have to say one more thing.
Okay.
We're not talking national parks, we're not talking national forests, we're not certainly talking military reservations unless they're no longer necessary, so don't get excited about that. Just grazing land, forest land, that's
I wasn't going to get excited about that. What I was going to say was, I don't care how you characterize somebody, and then we've got to answer this question, this is a good question. Regardless of how you characterize the investors as being conservative in the funds, etc., if there's some market and a means by which someone can use funds to gain a profit, you're going to have somebody trying to prise open that door and look, invest with me your retirement dollars. I can get you 15% on the dollar. They're going to be there hawking those funds, and those people are in the marketplace.
Mark, I understand. You know, and there are risks in anything. Today, there isn't any money in Social Security. It's a pay-as-you-go. It comes from taxes, and we're running out of money. We're making promises. There's risks in anything, but I suspect, look at the union's retirement funds and everything, frequently very corrupt, and the rest too, and I understand that.
Except for the Teamsters.
We're going to have to, of course, we're going to have to monitor these things. Life has some responsibilities, and we'll certainly continue with that.
We had a very, very good question from the audience. If elected, you will have no coalition, presumably in Congress. How will you convince Republicans, Democrats, and Independents to help you get your agenda enacted?
Absolutely. Critical issue, and actually it's the reverse. You can go with the Democrats, and you're going to go with, or the Republicans. They'll continue to have that bipolar politics going on in Washington.
And then there's Bernie Sanders.
They never get along with anybody. We have a trump card. We will actually furnish what the people of the United States absolutely want and crave and will demand when they see we can perform this. We will have a coalition government. We will put in a government of highly placed people, yes, libertarians, independents, but also Republicans and Democrats in our administration, as long as they agree with our approach of financial responsibility and social tolerance. And then when we have somebody playing all of this selfish politics stuff, we'll have some of their own colleagues from their own party, Republicans, Democrats, go talk to your Confederates, get them on board. We'll give credit to anybody that has a good idea, regardless of their political parties. Anybody that embraces a good idea will actually work together for America instead of for all this selfish politics going on. It will bring Governor Gary Johnson to the White House because people will demand it. Stopped you, didn't I?
Yeah, you did that. Well, that's, I mean,
It's really, really critically important.
Well, absolutely, because if you don't have, Lincoln faced that. Lincoln faced a divided Congress, and
That's right.
it was only
Had a team of enemies.
Well, yeah, that was
Doris Goodwin's.
What about,
Well, could I go back to Social Security
Sure.
just for a second? When you talk about how we're running out of money right now, a lot of the reason that the money is running out in Social Security has to do with the manner in which Social Security is taxed. Because a person pays into the Social Security fund only up to a certain amount of income level. And we have a smaller percentage of people making more money, so that a lot of the money that's made in income in this country is actually, it's beyond the limits for Social Security. So that money is not being taxed to go into the fund, and more people are below that cutoff.
Mark, you know, you can
Mark's a
always
socialist,
raise
I
some
apologize.
issues. I am telling you that the fundamental unfairness of Social Security is I am putting after-tax revenue into Social Security. And then when I get Social Security back, which should be my money, I have to pay taxes on it. Talk about something inequitable. I think that's hugely inequitable. That's simply wrong.
You have to pay taxes on Social Security income?
Absolutely do. Yes, sir.
I
Well, you're
took
not-
one semester of tax in law
Okay,
school. and
yeah,
I was-
well, I pride myself on not knowing taxes and bankruptcy law. That's one of my strengths, but I do know that this
Yeah,
is
you
true.
do.
So, you know, okay, look, Social Security today is a tax. You know, there's no fund. It isn't your money. And so now you're simply saying, we're getting more into class warfare. Mr. Obama's really good at that, where, oh, just tax those 1%. And that's basically your argument.
He's not in tax warfare. I mean, I wish he were. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing
Look,
that I really kind of fault.
The answer
They're
always is not
left-handed.
to tax people more. That is not the answer. You cannot tax the wealthy and help the poor. It just doesn't work. You need to put in a system which will actually help people, and that's what we have.
Last question. What do we do in terms of the Supreme Court decision in Citizens United
goodness sakes.
and the absolutely abominable effects it's had on our system?
Absolutely abominable effects. You know, I don't know where Justice Scalia was thinking. It's clear, I think, and everyone understands that for purposes of taxation, an independent corporation is a person, and I think that's fair. However, corporations, these non-human entities, they can't vote. There's a difference. They can't run for office.
Not right now, they
Well, so far. Give them some time, I guess. But at the moment, people understand this, and they should not be contributing to any political causes whatsoever. End of discussion. Why? Because if you're a corporation, before you start contributing to any political cause, you should literally get the unanimous agreement of your shareholders. And if you can, terrific. Let the shareholders spend their own money. So you simply stop any artificial entity, be it corporation, union, anything that's not a human being, from donating any money to political causes whatsoever. Same thing with unions. They should get unanimous approval from their members before they start spending that money. Again, let the members spend their own money. The problem is that, you know, it's deemed to be constitutional. We're going to have to address this. Governor Gary Johnson and I will approach this, and we'll try as hard as we can to absolutely get rid of this whole Citizens United case. It's simply steaming in the wrong direction.
You do through a constitutional amendment or appointment of new justice?
Well, you know, yes to the above. We'll have to look into it, so whether you could actually pass a statute saying that you can't do this, even though we have the Citizens United case that says you can. We may have to get it overturned one way or the other.
The Supreme Court has acknowledged in a relatively short period of time on cases that they made the wrong decision.
We will pursue that as hard as we can.
So
hold it up to the universal disdain that it's entitled to. The Kelo decision is another one that just has to be overturned.
Judge, thank you very much for being on our show.
Governor Gary Johnson is the guy. It's still time to vote. Vote for someone instead of against someone. Get us our 5%. If we get 5% of the vote just in this election, it will qualify us for matching funds in the future. That will give us legitimacy. It will be the beginning of the end of the two-party system, because we are in the mainstream. It will require the radical extremes on both sides to come more toward the middle. You give us that seat at the table. Well, you went to DePaul, but nonetheless, you know, we're going to keep working on it, and we're going to get in that mainstream. It will be historic. Vote for Governor Gary Johnson, the most qualified person to be president I know of. It's the most exciting thing that's happened to me since the birth of my children. It's nice to be with you.
Nice to have you on
Judge,
our
appreciate
show.
it.
Thanks very much.
Good luck to us all.
Stay tuned. We'll have another segment here on election predictions.